Why will it take so long to come up with a vaccine?
The problem with developing any pharmaceutical product is that it has to go through an exhaustive testing process. With the vaccine, you first have to identify good potential candidates, and that went astonishingly quickly this time. Within weeks of identifying the virus and sequencing its genome, researchers began talking about candidates, but that's just the start. You next have to test your candidate for safety. Usually you do it first in animals and then in increasingly large groups of humans, but only after a candidate has proven safe do developers usually begin looking at actually how effective it is. And even if and when your candidate fulfills all of those criteria, you still have to ramp up production to manufacture hundreds of millions or even billions of doses. Now, there are ways to speed the entire process up a little bit, for example, by running some of those trials in parallel rather than one after the other, but that approach has drawbacks too, and that's why most experts usually predict that we won't have a vaccine ready to distribute on a wide scale for at least a year and a half.
Why do people talk so much about a vaccine? Isn't medication more important?
Medications are, of course, important for limiting the impact of the virus on patients around the world, but long term, to defeat the disease, we need what's called herd immunity, and the best way to get that is through vaccines. If we don't develop vaccines, experts currently estimate that between 50 and 70% of us would have to get COVID-19 before herd immunity kicked in and stopped the pandemic naturally. But along the way, it could potentially kill millions of people. So a vaccine offers a safe alternative to achieving immunity in a large percentage of the population. An ounce of prevention is really worth a pound of cure. That's why, although treatments are very important, long-term vaccines are even more so.
Is there research on how existing drugs affect COVID-19?
A range of potential drugs that might one day help treat COVID-19 are being trialed around the world, but we don't really have many results for any of them so far. The World Health Organization is looking at 3 candidates in particular that have shown some promise. First, it's examining the effects of established anti-malarial drugs on coronavirus symptoms. WHO-sponsored trials are also ongoing for combinations of antivirals that have already been approved for treating HIV. And finally, one of the most promising substances is a compound called remdesivir. It was originally developed as a potential treatment for Ebola, but it didn't work out for that disease as well as hoped. Retrospective testing, however, showed that it did affect replication in the SARS virus, so hopes are high that it might also affect that pathogen's close relative, the new coronavirus. The best thing about all of these candidates is that most or all of the development has already been done for them, so production could be ramped up quickly if they did prove effective in these clinical trials. We should know soon if any of them work.